Welcome to Vivid Talk Live. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon, and I am the Principal and Chief Visionary Officer of Adam Red and Atlanta Branding Agency. I am a brand strategist and a Better Life Coach. Vivid Talk Live is all about your personal and professional development. I am here to help you learn a fresh way of thinking and doing for all you were designed to build. Now, I'm streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. You can watch the stream from those channels and on my website at gwenwitherspoon.com. Replays are available there on my website as well as on IGTV and Twitter. Make sure you follow your favorite channels so you'll receive notifications when I go live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, tonight, I'm going to continue talking about engineering your corporate DNA. And I think I'm going to finish answering the question, how are you going to get it done? Because you were born to produce. Please introduce yourself in the comments. Your questions are welcome. Katrina and Ron are helping me monitor the chat. Thank you so much for joining. Please share the link to invite your friends, tell them about the replays, and then we'll get right into it after this. Now, as always, I want to stay connected, so make sure you follow at Gwen Fuchsias on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope, and Gwen Witherspoon Coach on YouTube. And the website, I mentioned it in the intro. I want to make sure you know this is where you'll see all of the videos. You'll learn all about me. You can even watch live from the website, so you don't even have to go to any of the other channels. I want to make sure I mention those because if you have a favorite channel, I want you to know I'm there. And then at the bottom of the homepage, you'll always see the replay video from the week, the week before, and you can click on this lovely Watch More Replays button, and that'll get you to this page that has all of the replays listed. Again, if you have your favorite channel, you're going to see all of these replays there as well. But just so you know exactly, you have one resource. You can just go to gwenwitherspoon.com for all of it. You can contact me here. You can shop in my store. You can find all the social accounts, all of those things, everything you need to know about me. But I want to preface this week, just kind of go back. I'm circling back, like I'm leading you on a journey. So 3 weeks ago, we started what I'm calling the Engineering Your Corporate DNA series. And it started with this first episode, Stand Out in the Crowd. And I asked the question, how will you be recognized? And that's really what the whole point of creating a brand is. How are you going to be recognized in a crowded marketplace? Now, this last week or the week before that, we talked about that you were born to produce. I'm sorry, last week we talked about that you're born to produce. And I asked the question, how are you going to get it done? And the point that we started with last week was you have to create an action plan for how you are going to build your brand. And we started with six issues you need to address in your planning. Let me go back to this other screen over here. But yeah, we started with 6 things that you wanted to address in your. Welcome to Vivid Talk Live. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon. I am the Principal and Chief Visionary Officer of Adam Red and Atlanta Branding Agency. There we go. Technical issues. We're going to fire the engineer. Here we go. My corner logo. Trying to talk and click and all that at the same time. But so what are the things? So there's 6 things that you want to address in your action plan. Now, all of this stuff is colossal. You know, being an entrepreneur is a major undertaking, and it is not for the faint of heart, right? If you start out expecting it's going to be easy, it's going to be simple. Oh yeah, I got this idea. Everybody's going to love it. I'm going to put it out here, and they're all going to buy it. And then you think, I'm done. I'm going to laugh and sing and dance all the way to the bank. And once you get in, it's a whole lot more than that. Hey, Renee. And it's a whole lot more than that, right? And what I have learned is there are all kinds of processes and systems and formulas, and you get all kinds of advice from people. Oh, you have to do it this way. You have to do it that way. But the reality is the steps are the steps. When you are building, we addressed this before, when you're building a building, right? When they are putting it up, you lay a foundation. There are principles to building. And those principles ultimately don't change. There may be factors that impact the building, but really it's the same thing. It's just like children, growing a family, having a relationship. There's all these dynamics that impact the process, but really the process is the process. You can't really rush it, and we all want simple, quick, easy steps. And what we can get oftentimes is you can get a guide. That's what we're looking for, really. You want a guide to help you kind of put things together as you're figuring it out. But there's so many components to learn that, it can be overwhelming, really, when you think about it. And especially when you run into something that you really don't understand, a principle or a question you can't answer. And so that's why I want to talk to you about this concept that I've created around like engineering your corporate DNA. And so it's a 12-phase project and has about 9 different kind of levels to it. And we're starting with some core strategic questions. And in those core strategic questions, I'm trying to break it down for you in some simple steps that are some ways that's easy to remember as you go through the process. Does not mean that under any circumstances that you are going to know every single solitary step and know everything, but we want to break it down. So from week to week, when I talk about helping you get a fresh way of thinking and doing, I'm trying to just help you introduce some concepts, some steps, some things that I have discovered myself, things I've gleaned from other places, and made my own and interpreted in my own way. And I think because I feel you, like I'm in this with you. This is not theory and philosophy all by itself, but I have some theories around building a business after over 30 years being a serial entrepreneur and really loving brands. Like I'm the brand girl, right? I study them, I love them, I enjoy them, I create them, and I want to help you build a brand because you can have a company, selling paint. And until you build a brand to build paint, you may make a lot of money, but brands make, I don't know the statistic, but I would imagine it's at least 10 times more than just a company, right? You think about the mom and pop in your neighborhood, the mom and pop company business in your neighborhood. They may be doing really good business. They may have created an exceptional lifestyle for themselves and their families. But if they were an international brand, they would be, they have the potential. Now you can be an international business, right? This isn't just about, it's not just about size. It's about experience, about the relationship that you create with your customers, right? And we want to be able to take big business, multi-million, billion-dollar corporate strategies and be able to apply those inside of our little old businesses as we start as individuals and in our personal brands. And so that's what I'm talking to you about. So we're starting this, the whole series has been this, we're on the third episode in this series about engineering your corporate DNA. And last week, the question was, how are you going to get it done? And this is not the stage where you have all the answers. This is the stage where you ask the question so that you can get the answers, so that you understand strategically how are you going to proceed. Okay. So last week, I started talking to you about creating an action plan around 6 things, and they are purpose, people, product, profit, process, and promotion. A lot of P words. And last week we finished talking about purpose. And under purpose, there are 3 things to consider. What's your mission? 3 things to define. What's your mission? What's your vision? What's your values? And I said, mission is one simple, clear statement that reflects who you are, that explains you're clearly exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish with your business and who you're trying to reach and the scope of it, right? And it's short. It's not some big long paragraph. And then you want to write a series of vision statements. I like 3, 5, or 7. And those statements you use to describe the experience you're trying to create for your customers, for your clients, okay? Then the last thing is your values under purpose. What are the 3 things that your business is based on, the 3 things that you will not compromise, because those are their fundamental, foundational values for how you want to do business. Okay, those 3 things. Then people, what are you going to do for recruiting or recruiting talent, attracting clients? Training, how are you going to train them? Even with clients, you need to train your team, but you also need to onboard and train your clients, right? You need to teach them how to be good customers for you. Then communication. What's the framework and the plan for how you're going to communicate and collaborate with other people? And then management. How are you going to navigate how all of you work together and how you keep track of all the pieces of the entire process and how you keep all of that going from day to day? How do you manage the entire operation overall? So the third issue is product. And we started last week. There's 4 things under product: positioning, pricing, competition, and sales. And again, you've heard all these principles in some form if you have been doing business at any level. If you've written a business plan or seen a business plan outline, you've heard about all of these issues. But what I'm trying to do is frame them in a way that helps to just kind of clear the blockage that you may have had around around planning in general. I know that every time over the years that I have tried to write a business plan, and I've written a bunch of them because I keep coming up with ideas and work with a lot of clients, right? And every time I've come to a place in that business plan where I couldn't answer the question, it would make me stop. And I think we can get so caught in listening to people tell you this is how business has to happen, that you block yourself from being able to find the answers because you're so caught up in the language around that. And I think the brain hack, is that you figure out another way to think about it, another way to look at it. And so that's what I'm trying to help you do, is figure out another way to look at some of these things so that you're not intimidated by them, and that'll kind of open you up and give you a way of thinking that will help you answer some of these questions for yourself. And to help you understand that it's okay for you to make incremental, like little baby steps toward answering. You don't have to have a full-on answer every time, right? So positioning, we talked about last week. I introduced that really quickly. Positioning, before we came on tonight, I was thinking about, in your family, if you have, I was an only child for almost 13 years, and now there's 3 of us, and so I grew up as the oldest, right? So, and it made me think about family when I was thinking about positioning. I am connecting. I'm not going on a tangent, I promise. So, I'm the oldest. I have a sister in the middle, and my brother. This is who I grew up with, right? I'm the oldest. Sister's in the middle. I have a younger brother. So that's our position. We each have a position in the family. So when you look at your business, you got to figure out what position is your business in among all the other people or all the other companies that could potentially be doing the same thing or doing something similar as you, or maybe the other people and other companies that are trying to solve the same problem that you're trying to solve. I think, or that are offering similar or the same products. Like where do you stand, right? Because if you look at the same analogy as the family, each one of us, we are all people, but my brother's a male people, my sister and I are female people, but then my personality and my sister's personality are totally different. So your interaction and your engagement and involvement with both of us are going to be different. My brother, silly as he is going to be even more different, right? Because all of our personalities are different. So we may be all people. We're different types of people. And then we have different personalities and we have different ways of thinking, all of those things. So that's how your business is in the marketplace. So you have to figure out, where do you fit, right? And you might not have a place you can fit. There may not be anyone doing exactly what it is you're doing, right? But you have to you have to even identify that and say, well, there's no one else doing X. And maybe there's another company that might be offering something similar, but then your product, your service differs in this way. And I think when you think about it like that, it gets a little bit easier to try to explain, or at least to figure it out, because then you just start looking around. And I think at that point, it can become a treasure hunt, right? Instead of looking at it as this intimidating process, you can just start looking for clues, like searching. I think we talked about that 3 weeks ago when I was talking about doing an analysis of the marketplace. Don't worry so much about too many of the details. I think you just go out and just be inquisitive and ask questions and look and dig. And as you do that, you'll be able to see more distinctions around what it is exactly, how it's different from you. I think looking at those and kind of comparing for that purpose can help you it can validate the things that you believe. It can help you understand that you can trust your gut with the things that you have believed about your business. Yeah, I mean, I when I set out to do a magazine, she said, "How do you even remember all this stuff?" It's just coming, right? It really, literally, that's what's happening. And I'm enjoying this process. So I have to give a shout out to Katrina Mitchell, because Katrina, I'm not gonna cry, but Coach Katrina has set out and just really become a true partner and friend to me and to Adam Red. But she's also become a really valued coach. And Katrina was the one who made me cry. She's always making me cry. I told her I wanted to do Vivid Talk Live, and I said, I'm not sure if I should do it. If you've been watching every week, you've heard this story. But I kept saying, I'm going to do this show. I've been planning for it. I got better equipment, got better camera, learned how to do all the graphics, everything. And when it came time, I said, I'm not sure if I should do it by myself or I should get a co-host, because I always want co-hosts, right? I love working with other people. Never worked out. So she said, you got to do it yourself. And I have to say, I'm so grateful that she made me do it. And this is where it's so valuable and so important for you to have people in your life who can speak into your life. You need coaches, you need help, you need people who understand you, people who will speak into you, right? And so when you ask, Renee, how do I remember all of this? It's just in me, right? And if I hadn't started doing it, it would just still be dormant. And so every week gives me an opportunity to work through how I'm going to communicate and share these concepts, because this is the stuff I care about. I care about helping entrepreneurs develop their businesses. And God has been giving me all these concepts and ideas for decades, and I've been sitting on them because I didn't know exactly how to share them. And so this is forcing me, Vivid Talk Live is forcing me to just make it happen, get it done, and get it out. So I start with my little outline, and it's really like a puzzle too, because there's some concepts and things I've been working on for years, and this is giving me a chance to work through it. And so that's why some weeks, thank you. She said, I do a great job. Thank you, honey. But and it's so funny, I thought about you too, Renee, because I've got a new update for the brand personas. So we started out with Scribe, right? She laughed at me. So the brand personas that we were talking about when I asked about how will you be recognized. And I think that there are some primary brand persona, like personal brand personas that each of us operates in naturally, because we hear a lot about influencers, but there are more, right? And so thought leader, influencer, those are the same. Then I'd said personality before for the last 2 weeks. I've mentioned that, but I want to change that, I think, to presenter. I might change it again next week because I'm working this out. But thought leader, influencer, presenter, and then curator changed from scribe, right, to curator. And then Advocate was the one, and I changed that now. I changed it to champion. So thought leader, influencer, presenter, curator, and champion. Okay. So, and we'll get back to all of those things, all those concepts we're going to get back to, because we are kind of weaving this tapestry that's going to get us to actually, well, we're engineering your corporate DNA. So I want to help you understand how you and your personal brand are the key to the business that you're building, whether you are the center of that intentionally or whether you have a specific product that you're offering in the marketplace, or you have a ministry, you have a nonprofit, you have, like, whatever it is you're building, you are still, your personal brand is still the key to whatever it is you're building. So we have to engineer the corporate DNA, the DNA of your organization, so that you can build a brand that lasts, that serves people, that creates an experience for people. Okay. So when you are looking in the marketplace, you've got to determine what's the position. People say, well, what is your business about? What are you trying to accomplish? That's the thing. What do you want? That's where you are figuring out where you fit. And so, and I think I also don't put yourself under so much pressure where you feel like you have to answer the question perfectly. Because, like I said, I'm working out the brand personas, and that really is going to be a very central part of how we operate as a company with Adam Red. It's going to be a central part of how I help, how I coach other entrepreneurs and help them to develop their own personal brands. And it's okay that I'm working it out, like, from week to week to week, because I'm going to make it vivid. Making it vivid is about taking a concept and an idea, and you've got to be able to communicate it in such a way that it's so vivid that everybody can run by it, glance at it, and they got it. Like, that it's easy, it's clear, it's simple, it's quick, and they can grasp what it is you're talking about. So it's a process. You don't get there overnight, right? And if you're building an ark, an ark has many components. You're building a big building, depending on how large your vision is. Whatever it is you're building, it's going to take some time and energy and effort, but you can do it, and it's going to be fun. And and just allow yourself to go through the process, and don't put too much pressure. And I think that's when you can start enjoying it, no matter how hard the questions may feel, or how hard it may seem to figure everything out. You can learn to enjoy it if you recognize, just give yourself a chance to take the steps and move toward it, so that you can master just basic principles from day to day, right? That's called growth. Okay, so positioning. I won't say any more about that. But so under product, you want to look at pricing. Whew. So this is the hardest one. We can come up with every kind of idea. We can say, I want to sell unicorns in Antarctica to Eskimos, right? We can come up with these great, fabulous ideas. And that you can say, and I can get unicorns for $50. And and there are 200 Eskimos in Antarctica. They're not, but I'm just making it up. And, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna make so much money. But then when you ask somebody, well, how much money do you want to make? Especially women. I think female entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to shy away from saying that we went into business because we want to make money. Or oftentimes we are very service oriented. I want to do this because I want to change lives. I want to make a difference. I want to do something great for people, right? And then we feel like we can't ask for money. Like, we feel bad about asking for money. It's almost like we feel like we have to give a lot, right? That we have to do it. And all of those things, none of those are bad things, but you got to start out with the mentality that you got to make money. So you've got to figure out how you're going to do your pricing for what it is you're offering. And the quickest and easiest way to start just getting ideas about that is to look in the marketplace. Again, if you're looking at where you're positioned, I used the example last week of the gentleman that was in the car service business. He decided he's looking at the marketplace and going, there's all these low cost options. So I'm going to go the exact opposite direction. And I'm going to go for the luxury, corporate, celebrity, and I'm going to drive those people only. And so you have to do the same thing. Decide where you're going to be. I think Katrina used the example in one of our meetings. Do you want to be Walmart? Do you want to be Target? Do you want to be Macy's? Do you want to be Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus? Like, you see there's all those levels. And all of those companies have products at many different price points. However, generally speaking, Walmart is going to be this is the cheapest in that whole lineup, right? And so you have to decide where do you want your pricing to fall. And you don't always have to be the cheapest, because if, the higher you go up in the luxury spectrum, the better brand you create, the more money that you can command. I used to think that Apple I knew they were more expensive than most other computers, right? But I thought that the company was smaller. I thought it was more niche because the computers were so much more expensive. I've came out of college and as a creative, and so I've always used Apple computers. That's all I know. But I'm thinking in my mind, they're like this niche company, like this cute little niche company, and they're only working with artists. And so I don't even know, at one point it just became this global brand that was probably, one of the most successful computer brands ever. I'm thinking Microsoft is the one. Like they're on every computer and all of that. But, and I say that to say, the reality is it became that because of its branding, because of the brand that has been built around the products. And so we have an opportunity, you will have an opportunity over the long term to charge more and command more for your services, the stronger and more solid more vivid your brand is, and the more vivid your brand becomes. So pricing, you figure out, there have been so many, there's so many different methodologies out there, so many recommendations around how you figure out your pricing. I've got an MBA, and in my MBA class, there's this whole framework, a whole class that I took around pricing. And it had these very complicated mathematical formulas. And quite frankly, I just think it was a gift for the professor to let me, to let me come out of his class with a passing grade, because I didn't really understand a lot of those concepts. But what I have used is some very practical things. There are, like in the government realm, they have the GS, I forgot what they call it. They have a GS scale for pricing and for salaries, for how much people make. So you can refer to systems like that. A lot of times I'll go online if I want to know, like, how much, if I'm a freelance graphic designer, how much should I charge this particular client? I could go to salary.com, find what is it that a graphic designer makes, like a professional full-time salaried graphic designer. What do they make, in the city that I'm in on an average? And then you can look, okay, so if I'm going to be a freelancer, then I'm going to mark that up whatever percent, 2, 3 times, 5 times, whatever you want to do, mark that hourly rate up to give you an idea of where you might need to be, right? I've used those kind of methods to determine, am I in the right place from a pricing standpoint? And some people have said, like when I started out as a coach, people said, okay, you got to decide what kind of lifestyle do you want? And then how much money is that going to take? What hourly rate is that gonna require? You can decide, again, when we talk about using the levels, what level of business are you at? Where are you in the market? Are you going to compete on price? Because if you're going to compete on price, then find out what the prices of your competitors are, and see how can you produce and manufacture that, deliver that product cheaper, or can you accept a lower profit margin so that you can compete on price and undercut them? Do you have a marketing strategy that's going to help you get to more people that you can sell at a lower rate, and for you, even though you're taking a lower profit per person, maybe the scope and the scale of your reach for those clients could be higher, and you make up what you lose in that margin with volume. So there's so many different ways to approach it, but you have to do it. And so I got to confess. So for 30 years, I told you, I've had this vision for having my own branding agency, my own agency, and eventually it became a branding agency. But it was, let's see, this is 2020. It was 2016 when I just got this idea that, or I realized that I had been saying all these years that I wanted to have a certain kind of, I want to have a full service agency. But then, and I kept saying that I was working with a lot of small clients, because I just love working with entrepreneurs. So anybody with an idea, I'm drawn like a moth to a flame. So I was working with all these small clients, and I wanted to do full service agency work and with larger clients. And I kept saying, nobody can afford me. Like all the people around me, if I'm working with these small people, small businesses that are just starting, they don't have the budgets and generally even the vision or the idea, the dream to do anything big enough where they needed a full-time, full service agency. So I kept saying, nobody can afford me. And then I kept saying, I also didn't know how to get to the client that could afford it. Right. And so just one day I got this big revelation that even if a client like what I was wanting to serve, even if that client showed up, I didn't have a way to explain to them how much I was going to charge and what it was they were even going to pay me for. Like I generally knew, but I hadn't sat down and really walked through what my full pricing was going to be. I had a overall, because I have an agency background, so I know exactly how the agency used to do it. So I had that whole thing in my mind, but I still hadn't sat down and even figured out just clearly so I could say it very easily, even produce a proposal quick enough for them to be able to say, yes, I want to hire you, And so that's what you got to go do that work. Are you offering bundles? Are you adding on products? Are you, just exactly how are you going to charge? Are you white labeling? Are you private labeling your products and just, how much is that going to cost you and how much are you going to charge? And the other piece is clearly we have to know who it is we're trying to reach with the products that we're selling. So if you don't know who that is, that would make pricing your products that much more difficult, right? Because if I'm working with smaller startup clients, then I have to create a pricing model that's going to work for them, but I also have to figure out how I'm going to deliver the product in a way that's going to make it possible for me to deliver that effectively, right? So pricing from every angle, you got to figure out exactly all the money it's going to take you. So sometimes if you sell wigs, you could find one manufacturer that you want to buy wigs from, and you could say, and they might have a suggested retail price on that wig. And you can say, okay, I'm going to sell 2,000 of those and I'm going to make X dollars. But then you may forget about the paper that you need, the boxes, the packaging that you need to send it out, the tags that you have to create to brand your product, the mileage it's going to take to drive to the post office every week or however often that you've got to do it, like all the money, the square footage of your home or your office that you are using to actually conduct your business. All of those things are deductible. They're expenses, but they're also, you've got to factor all that into your pricing, right? So pricing, then product. The next thing under product is competition. And I'm one of those people that I really don't like competing against other people. I always like to say that I'm really not competing with anyone else. I'm competing only with myself. I'm trying to be the best version of myself. But that's lovely. However, I have competitors. There are people who come to me that allow me to work with them and provide them with services, and they can get those from someone else. Those are my competitors. And so I can have this beautiful altruistic attitude about them, and I could mean them well. But the reality is we all have competition. And the competition might be, I had a project I was working on about 7 years ago, and I had a potential investor who said that my problem, or my biggest competitor, was complacency. So your competitor could be an attitude, right? Because the thing that I was doing was this great idea that he agreed could scale from where I was starting, and that it could scale and be something great. But he said the people who want this, who would be interested in this, that your problem is that they could tend to be complacent. And so your competition may not be a person. It may not be an actual company. It might just be an attitude. It could be, your competition could be the coronavirus, because now everybody's so sheltered in place mentally and emotionally that maybe they're not going out. They wouldn't go out after you to find what it is you have. So there's so many different ways to define competition, but you have to figure out exactly who is doing what. You want to look around in your neighborhood and see what is going on in your local market. And that's the other thing we all talk about. I know I do now, with us being able to, I can do Vivid Talk Live now, and it could be in any part of the world, because we're using technology. So it's so easy to say we want to be global companies, all those things, but just look around the closest to you, the people that you are looking to do business with. What is the location, the general area where they might be coming from, and who else in that same area might also be trying to reach those same people, offering something similar. And so what are they doing? Again, goes back to, you did some of this work when we talked about positioning, but you really want to take a close look at your competitors. Now, you might even want to monitor your competitors, monitor what they're doing, follow their social media. There are social media management tools. We use one at Adam Red, and we're able to monitor what competitors are doing for our clients and for ourselves. But you got to be able to take the time to say, okay, this person is a direct competitor, and I want to see what they are doing. And there are tools, there are digital tools that, we have a marketing analysis tool that helps to determine what other people are doing. What keywords are the people that are looking for you online, what keywords are they using? What other companies are using those keywords, especially the ones that are doing it well? Maybe you don't have a big giant budget like they do, but you can certainly see what are they doing. So what keywords are they using, so you can use those same keywords and possibly start ranking so that those people can find you, right? The people that are looking for them, they could be able to find you. Now, what's beautiful about the digital realm is that you have the opportunity to do that. Like, technology really is a great leveler, right? So, and then sales. So under product. So look, we're at 7:40 already. So 7:38. So sales. Again, I got turned on to sales with direct sales in college. I was a senior. I was my senior year in Des Moines, Iowa, at Drake University. My friend and I, my sorority sister and I, saw an ad for a part-time gig, and we went to this hotel and saw a presentation on skincare and color for this cosmetics company, and we didn't know anything about direct sales or what it was, and we left there. We were new image consultants with this cosmetics company, and that was the first time I got really introduced to sales. And it was so easy. It took me a long time to really embrace being a salesperson. And I always said, "Oh, I'm not good at sales. I'm not there." And I hear it so often from other people. And so if you say, "Oh, I don't like selling," I need you to stop, because there's no reason for you to be in business if you don't like selling, because every business, we're selling. If you're in ministry, you're selling. There's nothing happens until we sell something. If you have a problem, you are looking for a product or something that someone is selling so that you can give them money and solve your problem. So we are all in the sales business, no matter what it is you're doing. And selling, I worked for Nordstrom. Nordstrom, what they taught us was that selling is service. If I do a good job of knowing who you are and what it is you need, and I have the solution to your problem, I am serving you by selling that solution to you, right? It's not just I'm trying to get something from you. And I think if you think of sales as trying to convince people, like oftentimes, especially in the direct sales realm, I hear that a lot, that I don't want to bother people. I don't want to be a nuisance. I don't want to make them think I'm trying to take advantage of them. I don't want them to get tired of hearing from me. And I'm like, in this world, we are so busy. My inbox is so full. I think I've got like 27,000, 28,000, some ridiculous number of unopened emails because I get so many. And that's on one inbox. I can't even tell you how many more. And so if I see an email in there for something that I want, and I'm too busy to stop and deal with it at that moment, I consider it a service that company or that individual sends me another email about it because it's something that I need, that I want. And when I see it, I'm like, yes. If I don't want it, I either unsubscribe or I just ignore it. So how are they bothering me by contacting me to let me know that it's available? And that's the way you've got to think. We're all just too strung out and too busy. If you send out a campaign, you're trying to sell something, you send out information, you announce that it's happening, that it's available, and you feel like nobody's responding, they're paying attention. I promise you. They see what you're doing, and when you consistently, in traditional marketing, it used to be you had to touch people like 5 or 6 times. Now in this digital space, you got to touch somebody about 13 times at least before they start even really noticing and paying attention and deciding, oh, maybe I should check this out. So if you send 1 or 2 messages out, or you make 1 or 2 phone calls and you can't get answers and nobody responds and you quit, then you've got 11 more opportunities that you've missed where you needed to touch them. So think about how busy you are, and that last dress that you saw that came through, and how you really liked it. And then I do it all the time on Instagram. I'll swipe through, see an ad for something I really like, and I think, oh, I'm gonna come back to that, and then I forget, and then I never see the ad again. I saw something a few weeks ago, and I keep in my back of my mind, I keep looking for it because I'm like, oh, what was it? What happened? Where is it? And but I only saw it once, and so now I'm in my mind. I wish I could remember what it was, but I can't. And so if they don't pay for advertising again to get me, or retarget, you pay for retargeting, they're going to miss out. Because I would sign up, but I just didn't have the time at that moment. So again, you have to create, though, what we're talking about is an action plan for selling. You can't leave that out. Strategically, you have to figure out, how is it that I'm going to sell this? I can't tell you how many times I talk to entrepreneurs and I say, well, how are you going to make money? Especially artists. My husband and I, we know a lot of artists, and you'll be like, well, how are you going to make money? How are you going to charge? Or how are you going to collect money? That's the other thing. How are you going to collect your money? How you can have many different payment gateways. You're not stuck. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars a month on renting, equipment and all of those. You don't have to do that anymore. So now you can have multiple ways for people to pay you, and for you to generate sales, to collect the sales that you've generated. But you want to create a strategy and a plan around how you do it. And don't limit it to just what you are comfortable with. Allow yourself to just investigate all the different options and make sure that if it's possible, then you can take money. Like, people ask me all the time, do you take? Yep, I take every form of payment. If you like PayPal, Square, I got them all. I mean, really, everyone. Stripe. We have every possible way to collect the money and once we generate the sales. But we also know we've got to sell things. So soon and very soon, I'm going to start selling some things, offering things to you through Vivid Talk Live. But now I'm focusing on providing you with quality content. but I'm developing that content so that I can sell you something at some point, because otherwise I'm just sitting here talking. And you got to think about that for your own business. Everything you are doing ultimately should lead to a sale, because when you sell something, that means you have solved a problem. That means that you have completed your mission to a certain extent. And so that's a sign, right? The more problems we solve, the more money we make. So you have to get a clear action plan for how you're going to sell in your business. So we've gotten through 3 of them. So it looks like there may be another installment of this particular topic. But so profit. So we talked about purpose, people, product. Now we're going to talk about profit. So this is something too. So again, I got to tell on myself again. So I am super organized and not really intimidated by much of anything, but I have been terrible at bookkeeping. I know it needs to happen. I think probably one of my biggest challenges was that I kept thinking that I am organized, so I should be able to do it. So then that would make me hesitant to go look for somebody else to help me solve the problem. And what I kept doing was finding all these different solutions, creating all these different processes, and then it just never really worked out. Like I couldn't maintain it. And so I never had any real clear bookkeeping system in place, because I just kept thinking, oh, I could do it. But you know what? If that's you, then you need to stop it. Don't think that you can do it. I also used to think I don't make enough money to make it to do that, to have somebody doing bookkeeping for me. But it's one of those things where it's foundational to your business. You keep that, or keep your information organized in a way that makes it possible for you to get your taxes and all the financial issues of your business done, organized and processed in a timely manner. Like, it just makes sense. So you got to create a plan. I started out with QuickBooks, and again, I like the technology of it. I thought, oh yeah, I can do this. They had the online version. I had the app. I've done all of it. I bought the actual software. I've had the online version, and I've used the app. And every time I would just get it all set up and then I'd quit. I have used, I've paid, I've gone to Upwork and found somebody in the Philippines who got me all caught up and said it. And then I didn't keep up with that. Finally, I just went ahead and paid for a bookkeeping service, paid for them for the whole year, and just let it go. I've got to have this done. And so you have to think through, how exactly am I going to keep my books? Now, if you were good at that, go for it. But I could be good at it, but I just didn't want to be. I didn't like doing it. So you have to decide for yourself how you're going to do it. You got to create a plan for it. You have to also, when we talk about getting a vision for every area of life, I want you not only do you want to create this vision for a business that's bigger than you, that is going to, solve this one big, hairy, audacious, problem, but you also want to have a vision financially for the profit, for so you can project. That's what income and expense projections, that's what that's about. You want to think about into the future, what could this possibly be? And again, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to entrepreneurs and they have no idea. I've got this really great idea, and they go into all these long explanations about all this, about their idea. But then when you say, well, how much money do you want to make this year? Just this year. I'm not even talking about, the lifetime of the company. Most of the time we can't answer that question. And I know for me, I was afraid to answer the question because I was intimidated by it. And I was afraid to say a number, because if I didn't make it, then I'd feel bad, right? Or I might look bad. But it doesn't matter. What's possible? And I've learned the art of doing financial projections and working out a spreadsheet. And I have a whole income and expense projection worksheet that I've created. And the one I have now is in the million, $12 million just for one one company. And the expenses were probably about 3 or 4 million, right? So maybe even a little more. But the idea is, what's possible for your company? And if you can look at it and go, well, if I had, this many sales and this many, just projections. It's not a promise. You're not committing. You're not signing a contract. You don't even have to show anyone, but you do need to have projections for what you think you are capable of doing. And then you back up and start from where you really are. And what I used to do was I'd create the projections, and when they'd be in the millions, first I was intimidated, and I learned how to be comfortable with those numbers. And then I think I would be intimidated by the number, and maybe where I started was so far from that it was harder for me to really work toward those projections. So instead, I would back up with no bookkeeping and then just start spending money and collecting money, making money from clients, but not really doing that in a way that's helping me to really examine whether or not I'm hitting these projections or not. And so I think you have to emotionally deal with, if you have any kind of trepidation around doing projections and big numbers and all that stuff, you have to resolve that inside of yourself. And right, Katrina, you got to know your numbers. You got to know your numbers for everything. Because if you don't know the numbers, how do you know if you're making progress? How do you know if you're making profit? And you don't. And so that can be just a very scary, precarious way to run your business. So you got to know where are you right now? And it's funny, I keep going through these financial cycles where we are right now with Adam Red. Now I have a team, now I have payroll, now I have all these other expenses, but it's becoming fun to look at the numbers and see where I am, because I'm like, you know what? I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I'm nowhere near that $12 million, but you know what? I can see how far I've come from just last year and a half, 2 years ago. And now I'm looking at it going, you know what? I could double, triple that. And I could double or triple per month what I'm doing right now in the next 90 days. Like I see it, I have a vision for it because I have numbers, because I'm watching, right? So, yeah. So Renee, she says, I've absolutely learned to know my numbers. Thank you. Thanks to Katrina Michelle. Okay, exactly. But so we want to know our projections. The other piece is invoicing. How are you going to collect money? Now, if you are selling a product, you may not need to invoice people. But if you're selling product in bulk, then you might need that, right? But so we want to create a strategy, a process, a plan. How are you going to invoice client? What do you have a service that's going to allow you to do that? I'm a certified partner now for Keep, and I've been using Infusionsoft for 7 years now. It's Infusionsoft by Keep. And we are starting now to recommend this product to every client, because it has a way for you to do invoicing, collect your money, do your email marketing, landing pages, a business phone, all these things. But it has a whole thing around how you can collect your cash. And if you need to invoice clients, you need to create a quote. I would say that one of the most difficult parts of my business, and one of the most difficult things about collecting money was, or even just accepting new clients, was how are we going to create an estimate or a proposal, get them to sign off and agree on all the terms, and then sign a contract and then collect the money. Like, the whole process is so painful. We have solved all of that. Like, now I have a clear plan. It's almost like now when I have to do a proposal, I'm having fun, because I have a plan in place and a system that that we're refining, that's getting better and better. And then accounting. How are you going? You need the bookkeeper. That was the other thing. If I had an accountant, I felt like, I don't really need a bookkeeper because I can do this myself and I'm organized. But it's so important to have a plan for your bookkeeping and have a certified public, a CPA, certified public accountant, because you need to, even that accountant also needs to be a partner, a strategist who's helping you with those projections, who's helping you understand what kinds of financial plans you need to put together for your type of business. So you have to have a plan for your profit, the bookkeeping, projections, invoicing, and accounting, because otherwise, how would you know when you have profit? Okay. And then the last thing, I'm going to go on that note. Next week, we're going to finish it off with process and promotion. And remember that you can find everything that you need to know about me, Gwen Witherspoon, at gwenwitherspoon.com. This is our replays page. On the homepage, you can watch live, and you can watch the replays, and you can click from there to find all of the others. And again, remember that I need you to follow at Gwen Fuchsius, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope, and Gwen Witherspoon Coach on YouTube. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.